there, friends! Today is going to be a splits class, so it's going to be a fun, super easy stretch in order to be able to get you to do the splits. Okay, let's get to it. Alrighty, so we're going to come into forward fold. Today we're going to be working on the backs of your hamstrings and the fronts of your thighs and a bit of your feet just to make sure that you can work on your flexibility in order to be able to do the splits. So, first off we're going to pull your feet towards you, roll your shoulders back and down. Inhale, rise up, and exhale if you can come a little bit further forward. If it becomes too much of a stretch, you can just pull yourself back, but if you do feel like you can come forward a little bit more, then you can come into it a little bit deeper until you feel a bit of a stretch and not like pain, because then that's just not good for you. So come until you feel it. Remembering to keep your feet pulled back, your shoulders roll back and down, elongating your spine and pulling yourself forward, lifting your chest up higher. You don't want to be collapsed like this because then you're not really getting a stretch and it's not good form. So you want to see if you can lengthen and rise up a little bit higher towards the sky. Okay, now we're going to do half forward fold. So you're just going to bring your right foot towards your left thigh. Once it's here, you're just going to take a forward fold towards your left leg. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to be folding like this. You want to be turning more towards and straight on towards your left leg. So centering yourself, pull yourself forward, coming down, breathing here. Inhale and exhale, roll your shoulders back and down. Coming down a little lower if you can. Now if you feel like you have more room, then you can totally come forward more. But if you feel like that's a little too deep for you, then just stay where you are. Remembering to keep your feet pulled towards you. That creates a bit more of a stretch because it pulls your heel away from you, which tightens your muscles, elongating them, which makes it a deeper stretch instead of just straightening, because then your muscles aren't as tight. So this is just an easier way of creating a deeper stretch. Okay, now we're going to come back to forward fold, so place both feet out in front. And I like to do this just to see the difference in my legs, and yeah, it's crazy how much you can feel the difference from just stretching one leg versus the other. So take a forward fold and then pull yourself out. Notice if you felt a difference in like tightness or where you felt loose in your legs. As you're ready, bring your left foot to meet your right thigh. And you can place your hands on your thigh, your shin, or on the ground by your feet. Whatever you did on the last side, make sure you do on this side as well. Again, pulling your right foot up towards you. You're going to roll your shoulders back and down. Inhale, lift up, and exhale if you can, come forward a little bit more. Remember to keep your chest pulled up towards the sky, rolling your shoulders back and down. Keeping your right foot pulled up. We're going to take 2 more breaths here. So inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale. Forward fold. And then we're going to come into butterfly pose. So all that is just bringing your feet to meet together. You can bring your heels a little bit closer in or a little bit farther out. It really depends on your body and what feels best for you. I personally like to bring my feet a little bit further forward because sometimes I get a bit of a deeper stretch in my hips and in my inner thighs. So just come forward if you can, breathing here. So in this position, what we're doing is we're just getting a stretch in your inner thighs. That's going to really help when you do the splits, because when doing the splits, there's a couple things that need to be strengthened as well as more flexible in order to be able to get into that pose. When I started doing these stretches, I wasn't able to do the splits at all, and within 30 days of doing them, I was actually able to come into the splits completely. That doesn't mean anyone else is going to be able to do that. Everybody's different, and your body's going to react differently to the stretches. But I guarantee that if you do these stretches quite often, then you will be able to come into the splits better and reach that goal of doing them sooner than if you weren't doing any stretches at all. So it really does help. All right, as you're ready, you're gonna come out, cross your legs, and just come forward, and we're gonna meet in downward dog. So all you're gonna do is lift your heels up and push yourself towards the back of the room, extending your arms. Now we're gonna come into lunge. So lift your right leg up, your left leg up, and then you're gonna place it between your hands, and you're gonna lower your right knee down to the ground. Then if you can, you're slowly gonna rise up. So in lunge, what you're gonna wanna do is you're stretching your right thigh. So you wanna activate your right glute to make sure that you're tucking your tailbone and not overextending. So pulling your core in and activating your right glute, you're slowly gonna come down a little bit further if you can. This can be pretty intense, so if you find that this is too much for you, then just come into like square lunge, making sure that you're 90 degrees. If you do feel like you can come further into it and you want to be a bit more playful, then you can bring your foot forward and you're going to inhale and exhale, come down if you can. Again, I could go deeper into the stretch. If I was arching my back, I could do this, but you're not feeling the stretch and you're just injuring yourself. So you want to make sure that you're tucking your tailbone, activating your right glute, and coming down towards your left knee. Another way to do that, to make sure that you're doing it, is not turning like this. You're pulling yourself centered more towards your left than your right leg. Inhale, and exhale, come down. Place your hands onto the ground. We're gonna come into pigeon. So you're just gonna lift your right knee, off the ground, and you're gonna tuck your left foot under you and towards the ground. Now, what you're gonna wanna do here is you're gonna wanna untuck your right foot. If you're in this position and you're lifting yourself up like this and your left glute is not on the ground, then you wanna make sure that you roll onto your left glute, bring your right foot up, and sit like so. Then, if it's still too tight, you can bring your right foot up higher. One thing here with doing this variation, if you're not able to come into full pigeon, is lots of times we'll come into it and we'll stay locked and lifted up with your left glute not on the ground. Then you're just creating more tension and you're not actually coming into a deeper stretch or unlocking your hip. So you just want to make sure that you're coming into this position so you can unlock your hip. Then, if you feel like you can go deeper, you can come towards your left foot. If you did have your left glute on the ground and you feel like you can do the pose, then you're going to come into pigeon, making sure that everything's aligned and stable. If you feel like this is not very deep and you want to go deeper into the stretch, then you can lift your left foot up higher, extending your right foot behind you. This is really intense. So in order to be able to do this, you have to have quite flexible hips and great mobility. So if you're doing this, then that's wonderful. And if you're feeling like this is way too intense, then just go back to an ordinary pigeon pose. But if you are up here and this is still not enough for you, you can slowly come down to the ground. Stay in whatever variation is comfortable for you, and we're going to stay here for 2 more breaths. Inhaling and exhaling, pulling yourself towards your foot or towards the front of your mat, depending on what variation you're doing. Inhale, roll your shoulders back and down. We're going to come into downward dog. So bring your hands down to the ground, tuck your right toes under, lift yourself up into downward dog. Then we're going to do that on the other side. I'm just going to switch. Okay, now you're going to lift your right leg off the ground, bring it down between your hands, and then lower your left knee down. So you're going to want to do whatever variation you did on the other side on this side as well. So, doing whatever you did before, having your knees 90 degrees, or you can pull yourself down a little bit lower. Making sure that you're getting a stretch in your left thigh. Place your hands in front of you. You're going to inhale, lift up. Exhale, come down a little bit lower. rolling your shoulders back and down, pulling your stomach in as you activate your left glute. Inhale and exhale. See if you can move just a micro movement lower, getting a more of a deep stretch in your left thigh. Again, making sure that you're not turned like this. It's easier, but you're not feeling the stretch as much, so you want to pull yourself towards your right leg rather than your left. Making sure you're not overextending. You want to make sure you tuck your tailbone. Perfect. Now we're going to come into pigeon. So place your hands on the ground. Lift up your left knee. Bring your right hip onto the ground. Again, you can do whatever variation you did on the other side, on this side as well. So whether that was this position and then pulling yourself like this towards the other side, or lengthening, pulling your foot in, making sure that you're still seated on your right hip, and coming in like this. Or, if you want to take it up a notch and do what you did on the other side and come a little bit deeper into the position, you can raise your right foot up higher, making sure you're still on your right hip, and then if you want to come deeper yet, you can come onto the ground. We're going to stay here for 3 more breaths. So inhale, rise up, looking forward, and exhale over your shoulders back and down, relaxing your neck. 2 more breaths. I find this pose really difficult because it can be really intense, and oftentimes when I come into it, I just want to get up and run away because it's just a lot of tension. And so I find that I try to stay in it for a short amount of time and then do it quite often. So if this becomes uncomfortable for you at any point, you can totally come out of it and just come into downward dog. 1 last breath, inhaling and exhaling. Hands down to the ground. Downward dog. Okay, now you're going to bring your knees down to the ground, tucking your toes under. Now if you can, you're going to sit on your feet, on your heels. So making sure that your toes are tucked under. This can be really, really intense. So if that's the case, then just untuck your feet. But what we're trying to do is create a bit of a toe stretch, because in splits, it's common for people to come into it and their feet to be really sore after they do it because they don't have very flexible feet or they have never stretched their feet at all. So if you can't do that, then just come to this position. But if you can, keep your toes tucked under. And we're just going to sit like this. Okay, now we're going to move into my favorite pose. It's really fun. It's called half monkey position. So yeah, it's a bit of a fun and different pose. You can do this in either variation. So you can do this if your feet are tucked under or if they're not. But what you're going to do is you're going to bring your hands down, lifting your right foot forward, and you're just going to extend it like so. So now if you're already feeling it and you're like, oh my dear Lanta, this is intense, then just stay where you are, or you can pull yourself up towards your foot a little bit more, rising up onto the tips of your fingers. But if you feel like you can go deeper into this position, pull yourself back, sitting onto your heel again, bring your right foot back. So another thing here is you can bring your right foot forward like so. It's going to be less intense. But if you want to go a little bit deeper, you can pull your right hip back towards your left hip, making sure that they're level. Once you're here, if you still feel like you can go deeper, then you can slowly bring your hands on the ground, coming lower and lower down towards your right foot. This is my favorite pose for stretching my hamstrings, just because sometimes I feel when I do forward fold, I can't quite get to all the places that I wanted to, or I still feel like I can move further. This pose is definitely harder, but you can do easier postures in it, so it can be more difficult, or it can be just a nice easy stretch. Whatever you want it to be, you can just make that variation for yourself. Okay, it's intense, so we're going to come out, bring your hands forward, tuck your toes under, and then you're just going to shake them out a bit because it's a lot for your left foot. Now you're going to tuck your right foot under. Bring your hands forward and you're going to extend your right leg. Again, you can stay up where you are. You can come onto the tips of your fingers or onto the palm of your hands. Or you can come to sitting on your right heel. Again, you can keep your right foot pulled away from you, or you can pull it more towards you, making your hips level. Come into whatever variation you did on the other side. Another thing also, it's very common for one leg to be tighter or looser than the other. So if you feel like this leg's a bit tighter, then that's totally normal. Or you feel like this leg's looser, then that's also normal as well. So just notice what leg is tighter or looser and work towards bringing them level. So coming into more stretches maybe on your right side if that side's a bit tighter. We're going to stay here for 2 more breaths. So inhale and exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Bring your hands forward. Left foot meets your right, and you're just going to pound out your feet a bit. Interlace your feet, and you're just going to come to sitting on the ground. And that was our fun little easy stretching towards helping you to do the splits. If you want to end it here and you're like, I'm good, I'm just going to work on stretching before I hop into doing the splits, then you can totally do that. But if you do want to try it, we're going to do it once on one leg, and then you can always do it on the other leg once the class is done. Okay, so coming into the splits, we're going to come to a standing position. Then you're going to bring your hands onto the ground, coming onto the balls of your feet. You're going to extend your right leg, lifting up, coming down, bring yourself forward onto your right foot, kind of in lunge position. Then you're going to put your hands on the ground and extend. Coming back. This is full split position. If you can already do the splits, then in order to make it a bit more intense, it's common for people to come forward like this, doing a bit more of a bringing your right foot out and coming into a middle split more than a scissor split. So, if you want to bring it a little bit more intense, you can pull your right foot back, sitting down like so. Now, if you can't do the splits, but you want to try a variation of it, then what you're going to want to do is coming into the splits. I see a lot of people going like this, and they're like, I am jammed and I am stuck, and they can't go any further. This is really hard because doing this position, again, like in Pigeon, you're just locking everything, so you're not creating any movement. But if you do want to try it, then what you're going to do is come down as low as you can, and then you're just going to pull yourself forward down towards the ground so your feet are pulled away from you. It's a bit different, and it's a bit of an odd variation, but it actually helps you unlock your legs and your hips, making it easier to come into splits, and actually helping you towards doing that rather than keeping you locked up and unable to come into the position. Then slowly, if you feel more movement after a couple times, you can slowly start to pull yourself back, forward, until you're eventually able to do the splits. Okay, so you can try that a couple times if you want, rewinding, seeing the different variations of the splits. But I hope you enjoyed this class. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, bye.